What's going on YouTube? I've had several requests now to do a video on tools I would recommend for a diesel tech just starting out. And I apologize, I've been about a week behind on making any videos. We've been crazy busy. But this is going to be kind of a little bit different type of video on what I would recommend. So I'm going to kind of break it down. Stuff that I would recommend for someone who's wanting to go into the diesel side, as in, you know, more geared towards dealership and your heavy trucks and mid-duty trucks, things like that, or someone who wants to go into ag or heavy equipment repair. And you'll notice it's a pretty bare selection, pretty minimal. And the reason is a lot of people want to go into the heavy duty or the diesel industry and they make it 6 months tops and then decide it's not for them. And there's nothing wrong with that, but what you don't want to do is go invest $25,000 in tools and then realize you don't even want to do this. So you'll notice there's no ratchets, anything like that in this little assortment here. And that's because I love my Mac ratchets, you know, but to pay 200 and some, 300 and some dollars for a ratchet, you need to be using that thing every day, making your living with it. Gear Wrench makes an awesome ratchet. Tecton makes a great one. Even Icon now, and Craftsman makes some really great ratchets. So for somebody just starting out, I would really recommend going with a more budget brand like that. I used them for a really long time. I still use a Gear Wrench and a ratchet in my Craftsman in my personal truck. That's what I keep in there because I'm not going to spend the money to have this type of stuff there. So those are some options to look at when you're just starting out. No matter what you go into, I would recommend getting a good set of filter wrenches. These are CTA. Blue Point makes the same exact thing. Probably Matco and everybody else does. But the CTA ones are a little cheaper. They're just as good a quality. Those will come in super handy because you're going to do a lot of oil changes starting out. And that'll get you up to, you know, most of your bigger stuff. So highly recommend that. I really recommend a cordless 1/2" impact. I use my 3/8 probably more than my 1/2", but starting out, I would start with a 1/2" because you're going to be taking off a lot of tires. And the 1/2" is way better for that. You know, when you get into manifolds and different stuff like that, you'll be using a 3/8, but anywhere you're just starting out, you're probably not going to be doing much of that kind of work. So I would start with the 1/2". I really like the Mac. The main reason I like it is because it runs off a DeWalt battery, and my drills and everything else is DeWalt. So Mac's great, Milwaukee's great. Wouldn't really recommend Snap-on or Matco simply because you're limited to their battery platform and they're really expensive. So when you do that, you know, I can take batteries out of my service truck and run my DeWalt skill saw at home, or my drill, or anything like that, my heat gun when we're doing irrigation work or wiring. You know, you're going to be more limited with those other batteries. Another thing I would recommend is these Nipex. I think this was an 8-piece set, and I've got all of them in the toolbox, but they're the fixed head snap ring pliers. One thing I hate is the little interchangeable heads that you just lose and they fall off when you're trying to get a snap ring that's on there really tight. So there's the part number on these, and they come with, wrong drawer. I think it's an 8-piece set. But I mean, basically everything that you're going to need as far as your snap ring pliers go. I prefer to just have each one of them in a fixed head instead of one pair with 10 different heads you got to swap out. Another thing I highly recommend, and these are Tecton, they've been great for me. Go with whatever brand you want, but when you buy a set of hex keys, I highly recommend the ball head. You can get those in at an angle instead of just coming in straight. If you have to come in at sort of an odd angle, these will still catch it without rounding. So highly recommend those. Again, a pair of automatic wire strippers, really recommend them. These are Blackhawk, there's your part number, but any brand's really fine. And these little tool aid ones, you know, when you come in somewhere and it's the 100th time this light's been wired and you just have a tiny little piece hanging off, you can get that in there and still strip it. Whereas you couldn't with a regular pair of wire strippers. A good mid-quality wrench, I use these in my service truck, the Milwaukee Max Torque, I think maybe is what they're called, but they've got the head just like the precision torque wrenches and the snap-ons. They're heavy duty, comfortable in the hand. They don't round. I think you're probably in the neighborhood of 200, 250 for the full set of metric and standard. And that's worth it, whether you stay in the industry or not. You'll always have a good set of wrenches. As far as pliers, I really recommend these twin grips from Nipex, and there's your part number on them. You're going to be doing a lot of just odd work when you start out. You're going to be doing a lot of services, tire work, probably, and then you know, working on old rusted stuff. These really help kind of grip the other end of a fastener when you're trying to get something loose. These are phenomenal. I really think everybody should own those. If you're going into the heavy duty equipment side, I really recommend a pair of these hose clamp pliers. These are Matco, but I mean any brand will do. You can find these on Amazon all day. Servicing hydraulic filters and things like that, those come in super handy. As we all know, your most valuable tool is your brain. Okay, so these are the 3 books that I keep in here, and I still look back to them from time to time. Troubleshooting and Repairing Diesel Engines. That's a McGraw-Hill book. Highly recommend that no matter what you go into. That's an awesome book. This is a great book right here if you're going into the equipment industry. I mean, it kind of goes into depth on everything from hydraulics to wiring to air brakes on trucks and equipment. There's a lot of really useful information in here. And you know, a lot of this stuff is going to be things that you don't deal with every single day. So maybe you need to look back and kind of refresh your memory every now and then on these odd jobs. And then the last one is Hydraulic Systems for Mobile Equipment. That's another great book. I don't care how long you are in this industry, you're going to end up running into situations that just stump you with hydraulic motors and pumps. And there's going to be weird stuff that goes on. So having some kind of little reference guide like this is great. This is a super handy book. I use it a lot. That being said, if you do go into the equipment industry, highly recommend this kit from Fox Machine. It also comes with gland nut wrenches. I think I showed those in another video, but you know, you don't need it. You don't have to have it. I know that. But when you're repacking cylinders, getting the O-rings inside the cylinder, these will kind of butterfly them for you instead of having to take a screwdriver and, you know, risking puncturing an O-ring and doing all kinds of weird stuff. This is a really handy kit. Can't recommend it enough. I think it's right at 200 bucks for all of these 2 different size, you know, adjustable gland nut wrenches and a piston ring compressor. So that's a really good deal. One of the more expensive tools I would highly recommend if you go into especially the ag side is this bearing separator kit from Mac. And there's your part number. You're not going to believe the amount of bearings that you're going to end up messing with on the ag side of things. And these make your life so much easier. You just, you know, adjust it to where it fits the bearing and then compress it basically until it separates from the shaft and slides right off. So that is super handy. And then this kit, and I don't know if you can get this anymore or not. Expert used to be like Mac's Blue Point. It was on the Mac truck, just a cheaper version. And I don't know if they're selling it anymore or not. But this is just a general service kit, I think is what they call it. So it's got a few screwdrivers, a bunch of wrenches, and you can see they're pretty good quality. You know, they don't have the teeth and stuff like that, but they're great when you're just starting out. And turn this over. Fall. And you're going to have pretty much every socket in 3/8 and quarter that you're ever going to need. Deep and shallow, all 6-point universals. The ratchets that come with this are great. Good quality. Everything's really good quality. Extensions, you know, I keep this actually in my personal truck, and I think it goes for around $400 You know, you can go with gear wrench and lots of other brands that are just as good. If you're gonna go a tool truck route, I highly recommend when you're starting out, going with, you know, Expert if it's a Mack truck, or Blue Point if it's Snap-on, or Silver Eagle from Matco. I just really recommend going for those more budget brands, because you can spend some insane amount of money on tools, and there's really no need to. You know, a lot of this stuff is just as good a quality. If you get on a Matco truck, any pair of pliers that you buy is probably going to be Nipex. The same goes for Mack. Just go online and order the Nipex brand. There's lots of stuff in here that you don't need. You don't absolutely have to have. The other thing I would recommend is these anti-vibe hammers. They make sledgehammers, ball peens, everything. I've had them forever. I love them. I would probably go with the Proto brand instead of the Mack brand, because it's the exact same hammer for like 30 bucks less. So I would definitely recommend going that route. If you guys are interested, I'll do a little bit more in-depth video. Just let me know, you know, maybe like second year purchases or end of first year purchases, just things that I think, if you know for sure you're going to stay in the industry, that you should buy. Things that have made my life much easier, tools that I use every day that, you know, are not necessarily an entry-level tool or a beginner, but for somebody that knows this is what they want to do. I can do a video like that if y'all are interested. One other thing I will say is, these are all getting replaced real soon. These are gear wrench, and for the weekend warrior, they're probably great. If you're going to be in this industry, whether it's cars, trucks, or equipment, go ahead and buy an expensive set of Torx bits, 1/4 inch and 3/8. I broke, I think, 8 of those gear wrench ones, and without even putting an insane amount of pressure on them, just kind of using them, you know, like they're going to every day. Blue Point makes a great 87-piece kit. It's expensive, but that's the route I went, and they should be here in the next couple of days, and I can do a review on them. But all of that's going to go home or in my personal truck, and all of my Torx and Allens are going to be Blue Point, because this is the second set of gear wrench I've had, and I had a set of Tecton. They both make great tools, don't get me wrong, but I have just flown through their Torx sets, and that's something you're going to use a lot. It's worth paying a little bit of money for. So I'll do a review on those when they get in. And like I said, if y'all want me to do a more kind of in-depth video on stuff that I recommend for, you know, end of first year, second year, somebody who knows this is what they're going to do, I'd be more than happy to make that video, because there's a lot of kind of not necessarily specialty tools, but tools that just the average Joe probably doesn't keep or have, that make my life a lot easier. So if you guys want to see anything in particular, just leave it in the comments, and thank you for watching.